We must, of course, discuss this new political theory that's being shopped around. It's the new theory on the block, the new strategy on the block. It's hip, it's wow, it's now, and how, one might even ask. And this is, of course, the strategy of accelerationism, which is to say the collapse that we are going to face as a movement and as a society is inevitable, so we may as well rip the Band-Aid off, get it over with, because as you may know, famously, when you lose and continue to lose, it actually then means you win, because it's like a freaking superhero movie when like you're just about to lose and then you freaking win, and that is actually like a one-to-one mirroring of our current situation, so we may as well get it over with, get our game faces on, and begin to lose. And this is something that comes up maybe like every 18 months or so. In my decade now of monitoring the situation, I've seen this come up like several times. Curiously, it's always when we're about to like win or we begin winning that people start saying like, hey, what if we like tried losing? What if we just ran that? But when things tend to be not going so well for us, then people are maybe a little bit more serious, a little bit more focused. And I am being a little hyperbolic. I'm being cute. I will repeat the argument as it's presented, and we will go through that, go through the history behind it, how it is originally a leftist political strategy, which curiously tends to benefit leftists rather than right-wingers who think that they're being edgy on the internet. So we'll go over that. We'll go over who's pushing it, why they're pushing it, why it's stupid, all of the above. And then we'll do a little bit of a, what do they call it? A Thomas Massie review of a clip of his, I guess, when he was speaking into some microphone, maybe soft launching his podcast. I mean, I guess he was, in Congress or whatever, but what's the difference, right? Where he's talking about Venezuela being a war for oil, whatever, dude. So we'll talk about that. But most importantly, we will talk about accelerationism and why literally it is the stupidest thing I've ever heard in my life. Do stay tuned. Hello there, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome to the John Doyle Show. Before we get started, and I tell you why it's actually 300 IQ to lose so that you win and make victory more difficult so that you can actually become victorious after you lose so much and all your top guys get imprisoned or killed and then you win. Before we get into that, I have to tell you about what is in your tea. This Chinese tea and its industry and the products, they are flooding into America and they're contaminating you with microplastics and heavy metals. They don't care about your health. They care about your anti-health, which is to say your body's willingness to attack itself, right? And also they care a little bit about your wallet. And I have an answer to that problem for you. It is called Kindred Harvest. That is the American answer, the patriot answer. It's literally run by our friends. I didn't know that until a few weeks ago. Now I know that. It's a fantastic product, right? It's lab tested. It's zero microplastics, zero heavy metals, blended and packed right here in the USA with 100% biodegradable containers. There's no glue, no ink, and most importantly, no compromises. You get your morning energy. You get your evening relaxation. It's clean tea for your entire family. Stop trusting China with your family's health. They don't know anything about health. They don't know anything about family. They don't know anything about you. Why would you do that? Choose American quality. Break out of the longhouse. Choose Kindred Harvest. Cultivate goodness daily. Go to kindredharvest.co. Use code Doyle for 20% off. That is kindredharvest.co. Use code Doyle for 20% off. I have to share with you the product of all of my research, all of my reading, all of my thinking that I have done in the past 10 years to bring to you one distilled conclusion for your consumption, for your political enjoyment, as it were. And that is that the most based and red-pilled thing you can do is support the Republican Party. There is nothing more base, nothing more radical and red-pilled and threatening to the powers that be than voting for Republicans. And so we will talk about that. We have to talk about, just broadly speaking, accelerationism, which of course is something that gets brought up every time people who believe they're on the right are essentially mad that things aren't like moving along for them as quickly as they would like. And I know that this is true because I never see accelerationism be brought up when we don't have any opportunities available to us, right? Like when it's spring 2021 and Trump supporters are getting arrested, his allies are getting indicted, we're literally importing millions of third worlders, our economy's in the toilet. When all that's going on, you don't hear so much about accelerationism, why this is actually good. Curiously, this is only something that's brought up when Trump is running for president. Curiously, this is only something that's brought up when we actually have the opportunity to do something. Then all of a sudden, the discussion becomes like, hey, psst, what if we actually like didn't do anything? Because then later we can do something, and then when we do it later, we actually win. Okay, right. But in the moment when the supposed accelerating is actually occurring when we're getting blacklisted and arrested and prosecuted and killed. Nobody's laughing to themselves when that's all going on, right? Like nobody's like, those Democrats, they're walking right into my trap, just as I drew it up. No one's saying that. And that actually makes a lot of sense when you recall my 5th instance ever of being wrong, which is like still one hand, I'll take it. But it was last year after the election. I came out and I said, of these kinds of conversations, I said basically anything that is obviously insane, counterproductive, drama, just generally untrue. I said all of that stuff is going to go away because people are going to have an appetite for victory. Now that victory is possible, they're going to lose their appetite for that kind of stuff now that they will have a taste for seeing what the results of victory actually are. Little did I know, at the time, it would actually be the exact opposite, because it's actually when victory is possible and things begin to improve that people use that new sense of security as permission to indulge in just all of the slop, right? Like when things are going very badly, we got to keep our game faces on. We got to lock in. But now that we're experiencing a wave of comfort, perhaps safety, now we feel as though we have permission to just indulge in some of our, we'll say, less desirable behaviors, right? The problem is, however, whatever we've got right now, while, yes, this is new to us, it's exciting, this is by no means permanent. Victory is by no means inevitable. We have to be forward thinking. We cannot just enjoy the day-to-day, enjoy the immediate, scurry ourselves over to the trough and just binge all of the slop without a care in the world until our stomachs explode and we die. We actually have to think about the future. We have to understand that our present actions do affect the future. We are not passengers to this. We have agency. The things we do matter. And unfortunately, no, saying that it would have been better for Kamala Harris to have won, Gavin Newsom, any of these people to have won, to have become president, unfortunately, that is not like a serious read. That is not a serious consideration of the future. But because I have a beautiful heart, I will choose to nonetheless take this seriously. We can talk about it. And for my first trick, I will actually repeat their argument in my own words, which is something that nobody seems to ever want to do with me, but that's okay. So the argument is essentially that the Republican Party obviously has failed to represent the interests of its voters. It has failed to stop the left politically, culturally. We could make a list a mile long. So perhaps counterintuitively, it is actually better for us to not support the Republican Party, because the only way that we can get the Republican Party to actually listen to us and to hold them accountable is to suffocate them of our support. Then, if they're to survive, it's only because they've finally begun to listen to we the people, and then we can actually get what we want out of them, etc. Related to this is the idea that the Republican Party should just completely fail. It should just completely burn to the ground. We should burn the Constitution, #Yay24, and then once all those things are gone, it's going to create a kind of vacuum, a kind of opportunity that we can fill and create something that finally represents our interests as like a political machine, right? If we don't do this, if we just keep voting for Republicans blindly, then all of our losses are just going to continue, and then we will be defeated, and it's over for patriots. So the Republican Party exists as this kind of like pressure release valve to convince voters that it does actually represent them, when in fact it doesn't. It seeks to contain them, right? And to dissipate and ultimately waste their political energies. That's more or less the argument. And I actually agree with the last part of that, like about the purpose and function of the Republican Party. Like that is just a matter of fact. We've said that for years. Being the purpose of the Republican Party is not to represent its voters, of course, it's to contain them. That is true. So let me just address kind of some of the other stuff pertaining to that before we get deeper into why this originally leftist strategy of accelerationism benefits leftists. First thing to understand, and I'm saying this because, I don't know, dude, like if you disagree, we don't have anything else to talk about. Like we're just on different planets at that point. And that is that we are winning right now. You can measure this by the progress on our side, which literally is unprecedented, as I've spent hours of my life trying to explain to you, you child. Or you can measure this by the meltdown from the left, the response from the left, which likewise is literally unprecedented. This is just the case. The question may be, is this the optimal amount of that? Could we be winning more? Are we wasting time with this? Fair enough. We can talk about that. But I'm just saying, like, to get people to realize in the moment, this is not your grandfather's Republican Party. This is not even your dad's Republican Party. There's not even a libertarian phase anymore. Like every guy under 30 gets it. All the staffers, they've all read Pat Buchanan. They're all on right-wing Twitter. Everybody knows more or less what is going on for the most part. Great. Of course, you're going to have your internal struggles, right, with what we will call very, very, very broadly speaking, Republican politics. You've got younger ascendant patriots opposing, maybe your older neocon gatekeeper types. Like I am intimately aware of that. My point is that it is somewhat dishonest to take the last 10 years of Republican politics where we have made genuinely unbelievable progress, which we have, and to extend our data to include the past 60 years because everything, has just been under one label being Republican Party politics. Like the branding may still be the same, the name may still be the same. Yeah, voters kind of need that sense of continuity, but there is clearly a difference now in what Republican means versus what it meant for the past 60 years. Clearly, it is a different machine now. By absolutely no means perfect, but it is different and it is working in a good direction. Moreover, the purpose of the Republican Party is exactly what you say. It exists to contain Republican voters. It does not exist because of Republican voters. It exists for Republican voters. That is a different thing. It is able to exist because of the left. Notice that when that party actually tries to start doing something to represent, Republican voters, then it gets persecuted by the left in ways that are beyond the sort of kayfabe mean headlines of the day. Like we're talking lawfare, which as a giant, sophisticated political party, it is able to kind of deal with. Whereas if the people tried to organize themselves and actually threaten the left in a meaningful way, they would, of course, be immediately crushed. Power by nature is going to extinguish anything that it perceives to be a threat to it. The people are never going to hold the party accountable. They are not organized enough to do that. There is not enough consensus among the people to do that. The only way for there to be change is for there to be a change in the menu options which are presented to the people, like with Donald Trump. If the existence of the Republican Party were determined by the satisfaction of its voters, the will of its voters, rather than by the left, which enables it, which employs it to be a part of the establishment, to play the role of the establishment's opposition, if that were the case, we wouldn't even be having this discussion because the voters would have long ago held them accountable and we would have based party, right? Oh, well, that wasn't real holding them accountable. It's like, okay, dude, back to the big question, right? Okay, that all may be true, but could we be winning more? Are we taking a bad deal? That's a great question. I can tell your heart's in the right place. You're a smart guy. But I have to tell you, and this is not for the faint of heart, the Republican Party is not going anywhere. I know. It is best for you to make peace with this early in your life. You can go read about the right-wing movements in this country 100 years ago, and they'd have thousands and thousands and thousands of young guys flooding the streets all over the country. Now today, you haven't heard of a single one of them because it didn't work. They did not have a political machine that could absorb that momentum. They had the ideas. They were all good on the issues. They had the people. Great. As it would turn out, actually organizing, far more difficult. So that's the thing with the Republican Party. I do not care about the Republican Party. I was literally never one of these, like, I'm going to wear a suit to school and talk about the issues. I was never one of those kind of guys. I became involved in politics because Donald Trump showed up and started calling Mexicans criminals and accusing women of PMSing anytime they asked him a question he didn't like. Like, I support the Republican Party only because of that, only because of Donald Trump staging a hostile takeover of it, installing his family, installing loyalists. Now, your, like, sort of measure of commitment to the Republican cause literally in practice just means how committed you are to the agenda of Donald Trump. That's what it means to candidates. That's what it means to voters. Like, that is what that means, and that is good. But my point is that it is still one of two major American political parties, which means there are more people and resources involved in it, for better or worse, than you and I would ever even understand. So it's like, okay, good for those idiots. Let's just do it ourselves, right? Like, yeah, let's just go epic third party mode. Let's create based party. Let's burn it all down. Okay. Do it. What's stopping you? What is stopping you or third parties or anyone from dethroning the two political party, the two-party system? It's a blank canvas. We all have the same 24 hours in a day, right? So where is it? Where's based party? I'm trying to vote. I don't see it on the ballot. We've had all the time in the world. You're waiting for until the 11th hour to create based party. Where is it? People have talked about this forever. Believe it or not, it's actually been even less fruitful than just supporting the Republican Party. And frankly, I don't know, again, if we've even got time anymore, like given our demographic situation, and given that, and people still don't realize this for whatever reason, Donald Trump sort of triggered the boss fight, didn't he? Like, yeah, the fight's already on. We don't exactly have time to regroup, explore another strategy here. It's sort of like already going on. And in my experience talking to people who have even more experience, it seems to be the case that if you just show up with a smile on your face, you present yourself well, explain the issues you care about in language that people are familiar with, like, hey, I just care about putting America first. I care about preserving our history and our culture and the general way of American life. And I'll tell you what, I don't quite have an appetite for this Marxism stuff. I don't really like this DEI stuff. I'm just a normal guy. It turns out that actually like kind of works. I can explain literally any belief that I hold to literally any person and at least have them understand where I'm coming from. I have had libtard art hoes nodding along to things that I used to get banned on social media for saying. I have navigated QuickTime events you couldn't even conceive of. What most people want to do is not that. For most people, politics is just an exercise in vanity. They just want to show off how much they know, how correct they are, how much more based they are than the freaking normies. And they have no interest in anything further, no interest in doing anything else. I'll have guys message me like, John, you got to help me, man. I'm under attack by the neocons at my school. And I'm like, oh no, what happened? And they're like, well, it all started when I denied the Holocaust during a game of apples to apples. Buddy, what do you want me to do for you in this situation? The point is that, you know, the idea that something could arise to represent us in the wake of some collapse of the Republican Party, frankly, that is just like nonsense. Like, if anything is going to fill that vacuum, it is obviously going to be the left. Obviously, they are more organized than you. They have more funding than you. They have more elites than you. Pretty much everybody in the world who matters, all the big players, they're all signed on to that cause. If Republicans gatekept you, what do you think the left is going to do? They're going to take it easier on you. If Republicans made it hard for you to forward your interests, what do you think the left is going to do? Republicans at least like kind of agree with you. They're at least sympathetic to your ideas, especially if you frame them properly. You explain them well because you suspend your host scaring political extremism for 5 seconds. And what even were the plans for this? National divorce. Remember when that was getting brought up like every 6 weeks for a while? Kanye West for president, letting Kamala Harris win. And then what? New party? New movement, new epic-based movement of the people. 85% of our votes come from white people. We're losing 2 million white baby boomers every year. They're familiar with the Republican Party. They kind of like the Republican Party. They have a general understanding of the Republican Party. What do you think? You're just going to vote your way out of this? Like, yeah, kind of. It's kind of been working. We need votes. That's how our system works, actually. Democrats harvest votes. They import voters. This is the game we're playing, dude. This is how we legitimize our political project, since it's through democratic processes or, you know, whatever. Then you install your judges. You staff your bureaucracy. You do all the fun stuff. But yeah, crazy. We actually do need votes, actually. It's like this insane idea that I just come up with. And if you showed a typical Republican voter who is sure maybe dissatisfied with his party, you show this guy an advertisement for your new based party where you have a black rapper lighting the Constitution on fire, which is an actual thing that occurred in movement history, which to this day I am attacked for identifying as retarded. You show that guy that clip, he would assume that you're an insane leftist. Frankly, he would be right. My point is that we, the people, cannot hold anyone accountable. The voters are going to vote for whomever is put in front of them, for the most part. Literally a 100-level critique of democracy, that the voters do not choose their leaders, but rather they are chosen for them by people who are actually organized, who the voters then, you know, select from that list, which was created for them. That menu, right? The people on their own are never going to solve the problems that we're discussing. There's a reason that George Bush was filling the Pontiac Silverdome. People were getting excited about Mitt Romney. They don't understand the difference. It does not compute. And that's fine. Like, you're not going to change that. Any kind of like mass thing is going to involve working with very broad brushstrokes, simplicity, accounting for, you know, your lower common denominators. That's fine. I'm just saying that you probably should not waste your time, your efforts trying to kind of corral the people into some kind of mass movement that's aligned with your niche political ideology. And in doing so, abandon Donald Trump and Donald Trump's Republican Party, which seems to be what people are talking about doing online. Dude, like, where are the actual right-wingers on this app? Why is everyone I meet a leftist? Every time I see someone say this, I want to explode my head with a head exploder. It's just for social media engagement, and I get that. Like, if you're in the business of social media engagement, you obviously need a message with mass appeal, such as telling the people that they just need to wake up and start a movement, you know, like MLK or Gandhi. And most importantly, because I'm a coward who likes the appearance of being a dissident without actually throwing my weight behind the only chance dissident ideas have had in post-war America, do not support Donald Trump. He's cringe. He's not based. Right. It's so curious, dude. It's so curious that, you know, all of this talk sprouts every time we actually have a path forward. All of a sudden, the most popular thing on social media is to encourage disengagement from a political process that seems to be working. Now, fortunately, this is all online for the most part. However, they could maybe hurt us on the margins a little bit, which, we need the margins, don't we? Because of demographic change, fortification, young men, right? That's kind of course, why this sentiment is not only just being allowed, but it's being promoted everywhere. And I've already explained this, and so I'm just going to have my producer play that clip because I really hate repeating myself, which is why I spent like 5 years just making very long singular videos or singular topic videos because I didn't want to have to go back and repeat myself. So take a look at me explaining this just the other week on Timcast.
Actually happening here, like the op that we are all witnessing, is you've got a very big problem if you're a Democrat. If you're Tim Walz right now, like you're shaking in your boots, right? Because you're seeing polling where young men have shifted something like, 40 points to the right in just the last few years. If you're a Democrat, you're not putting that toothpaste back in the tube. You're not going to convince these young guys that they actually should go back to being like peak woke 2020, posting black squares. It's never going to happen.
All the bad stuff happened in their formative years. Go ahead, sorry.
So how do you solve that problem? Well, perhaps you should consider, because you're still the Leviathan, right? You still have all this money, all this institutional power. You just can't keep running the same play. It's clearly not working. Okay, so now what do? You use their momentum against them. You push them over their own skis, which is to say, I'm not going to censor you anymore because that clearly didn't work. What I'm going to do is I'm going to say, you're so right about all these crazy things. Actually, you're more right than you even think. You are so correct that Donald Trump is actually one of these Epstein guys. Donald Trump is actually a slave to that Israel thing you just found out about 5 minutes ago. And so now you are actually so based and red-pilled that you shouldn't support Donald Trump and you shouldn't support JD Vance. You should keep talking shit on Instagram, and then I'm going to be so mad at you and defeated, and I'm going to melt down about it on CNN. Oh no, I'm so scared of young men. And then you're there like, yeah, I'm really owning these people. Meanwhile, the actual political project, which has achieved for us every success we've had in the last 10 years, every deceleration of bad things in the last 10 years, they have convinced you to not support that because you're so freaking based and you know how the world works so well right now. And then what is the manifestation of that? You are opting out of the only political process that in your lifetime has ever actually worked for you. That is the op right now that is afoot. They're not worried about ideas. They're worried about those ideas having consequences. We've all gone through the YAF reading list. Ideas have consequences, right? If your ideas are not making it so that you cannot have consequences because you think the whole thing is corrupt, we just have to wait until the people wake up, man. How's that working in South Africa? How is that working in Brazil? The people are not going to wake up. We need to actually be the ones to enact political change. And so insofar as like social media trends, censorship, all that stuff is going on, these headlines, again, it is about appealing to Trump's base in language that they understand and saying, well, actually, Trump isn't bad because of these reasons that we made up in our head. He's racist. He's a xenophobe. Now he's bad because of things that you agree with. And people are falling for it, and it is very bad.
Yeah, well, they also have these boom.
Wow, what a fantastic series of points. I wouldn't dream of even trying to make them again. Yeah, man, just freaking accelerate, man. And then finally, we the people can be represented. We just need the people to wake up and realize this isn't about right versus left. Yes, it is, dude. You're just saying that because you're scared and you want to believe that like unity is still possible because you're afraid of what it means if it isn't. That things are not actually this bad. The stakes aren't actually this high. Hey, there are still liberals in South Africa. Did you know that? How is accelerationism going in South Africa? Did the people wake up? Did things get so bad that everybody woke up and solved the problems? Maybe not. Maybe we just have to necklace a few more people. Maybe we just have to drop off a few pallets of tires and gasoline outside of white neighborhoods in South Africa to accelerate victory, right? That's the new strategy. Yeah, we're going to accelerate victory by dropping off pallets of weapons outside the edges of white neighborhoods in South Africa. And we'll just be in there in the bushes like a moth to a light. They walk right into my trap. They don't even know that this is how we win. Dad, they've got Mom. Let them. Well, Dad, don't you see, son? We must accelerate. Total victory. Well, but Dad, I don't know if we should let them just kill Mom. You cock. I raised a slave. When did they get you? If I look under your mattress, am I going to find bricks of $100 bills, each in the quantity of $7,000? You slave. Go join your mom outside. Yeah, dude. Accelerationism. Trademark. As long as you keep trudging along, you'll see the quality of life decrease every year. There's not going to be this moment of mass awakening. It's literally never happened. We've talked about this for years. That's how the history books are written. That's not how it happened. There's not going to be some grand romantic collapse, like in a freaking movie. No, things are just going to suck more and more every year. Your ability to do anything about it is going to decrease more and more every year. Because even if you stay in the fight, you're not an island. People are going to check out. People are going to be demoralized. People are going to be assassinated. People are going to see that anyone who outspokenly and meaningfully resists the regime is targeted. the vast majority of people are going to simply respond to those incentives. High quality people who you need are going to respond to those incentives. Donald Trump had two extremely important things going for him. He had fame and fortune, and nobody took him seriously until it was too late. You do not have those things. You do not have the name recognition. You do not have the money. You do not have the network. And now, because Donald Trump exposed a flank, they are taking these things very seriously, which is why the largest DOJ investigation was targeting Trump supporters and not people who like Instagram reels of Adolf Hitler, right? You know, people want to be edgy. People want to be edgy, like voting for Republicans now doesn't mean mass deportations, black bagging communist leaders. I don't care how edgy you are. That's not impressive to me. You got to just like get that out of your system. And again, this is not even the sophisticated accelerationism. I know that there are far more intelligent like conversations out there surrounding a kind of like right-wing accelerationism. I know that, but to my understanding, those conversations are not similar to the popular understanding of what that means, which is what we're talking about now, which is that we simply accelerate our losing because we believe that in doing so, it will make our certainly inevitable victory arrive sooner. This is kind of the less sophisticated rhetoric, right? And it's not even trying to be sophisticated. It is just more trying to be edgy on the internet, trying to masturbate on the internet about how base you are. It's vanity. That's all it is. It's like, whoa, dude, you want collapse? That's so tough. You must be like super radical or something. So, okay, yeah, things get so bad that the quote unquote opposition party collapses. Then, because things are so bad, a real opposition party arises and it wins, despite these now significantly more difficult conditions, and despite that the collapse of the non-threatening party has now given more power to the left to then happily use against another party, a real party, a potentially threatening party, right, as opposed to the fake party. And the origins of this whole theory, this whole strategy are, of course, with a future leftist revolution. And apparently, the right still needs to learn that the originally leftist strategy of accelerationism benefits leftism. Crazy, right? And what they're describing, again, is people who think that they're on the right is not actually accelerationism even, because accelerationism literally means like a positive feedback loop, like, right? We are accelerating change. The time between instances of change is increasingly decreasing. We are changing more faster, right? And this continues and it goes and it builds more momentum and so on. Quite differently, what they're describing is actually a negative feedback loop because it is making change less possible, because it is literally calling for the consolidation of libtard power. And so now change is less possible. And the change that would be possible is significantly more difficult, takes significantly more time to achieve. This is a negative feedback loop. And apparently, somehow this is supposed to eventually result in our victory, because the laws of power will break down at some point, and then power will stop attacking what is threatening to it if we simply make the power big enough. As you may be able to tell, this is not a good strategy for the right. We do not do well in times of chaos. And the origins of this are, of course, with accelerating the collapse of capitalism to bring about freaking Marxist utopia. And left-wing accelerationism is actually coherent in this sense. It's useful to them because they do thrive in situations of chaos and disorder. They need that to win. They need the breakdown of order for them to win. For us, when order breaks down, victory is significantly more difficult because, one, we've got the biggest target on our backs, and two, we are now trying to corral the disintegrated and anxious and agitated masses and maintain some semblance of society while we're in a knife fight with communists. This is not a good situation to be in, certainly not a good situation to invite yourself into. So in the context of what we're talking about, these people mean basically accelerating the collapse of the movement of the country, which apparently is inevitable. We can't actually opt out. We can't actually just make things better. That's a lie. Just as the collapse of capitalism was supposedly inevitable, which, we're still waiting on that. And just as inevitable, or at least possible, and our best chance is to pursue this, because then it will apparently facilitate conditions that can bring about true victory. Now, this is usually where we get off. No one ever elaborates on what they mean by that. No one ever elaborates on, the tens of thousands of people who work, albeit perhaps unsuccessfully, on the Republican political project. Nobody ever explains like where those people are going to go, who's going to replace them, where they're even going to come from. We've just got this like reserve of guys on standby. Sure, right now they might be fucking losers who do nothing with their lives but start shit on the internet, but when we get based world, they're going to politically outmaneuver the people who've been ruling them for decades. You simply must be smart enough to understand this. People, they want to think about things in terms of movies, which, It's fine. Most people are going to do that. That is how most people understand the world, relate to the world. That's fine. But if that's you, if you are a normie, seriously, I really believe this. You need to take up sports betting. You need to go do something else. I will send you DraftKings gift cards. I've been doing this on Twitter. It is not fair for you to be in this environment. It is going to be extremely confusing and frustrating, and it's going to cause you a lot of unnecessary anxiety. You're just going to spend your time just bumping into walls due to things that you were never meant to understand in the first place. We have to think of you as sort of an animal that has wandered out of its natural habitat, and it's like in this like concrete jungle now, and it's very alarmed and anxious and confused and scared. We need to pick you up and put you in a little cardboard box, and we need to drop you off at the casino. We need to drop you off at some sort of like sporting event, because clearly what is happening now is making you extremely agitated, and it's not fair for you. It would be altruistic to remove you from that situation. That is actually, I believe, as Christians, our obligation. But in the meantime, let me ask you this. Do you think that accelerationism actually makes you better organized? Do you think it makes you more serious? Or do you think what we tend to see in people is that it makes them panic? It makes them tune out, if you will. We just had AmFest, the biggest political event of the year, a dead man's event meant to carry on a dead man's legacy, and every speech is just talking about someone else not currently giving a speech. What are we doing? It's just drama. It's politics as telenovela. Nobody is taking this seriously. Nobody is serious at all. I'll tell you what, the Jews are keeping me from following through on my promises, from not alienating potential supporters, conveying accurate information, maintaining professional and social relationships based on mutual trust and respect, communicating in a way that makes me seem stable and competent, representing myself and my ideas in the best way possible, trying to achieve realistic goals in the world as it exists today rather than how I think it should be in my retarded online fantasy. Also some other stuff, like that is where people's heads are at, you know, and people exhibit all kinds of bad behaviors. The more you get involved in politics, the more you know this, and things are going kind of good right now. So just imagine how useless they would be when things get really bad. Who's gonna step up? We don't want to see what that would look like. I promise you that. And those are just the retards. You can forget about the elites. They're gone. Elites are not more likely to join your side and throw their resources behind you, sacrifice other opportunities for you, for your cause, once it becomes more difficult to be involved with that cause. We have a window right now. We don't have windows when we're South Africa. We don't even have lights when we're South Africa. Okay, well, South Africa is one thing. What about America? What about Colorado? Did you know that Colorado used to be a red state? It went for Nixon over Kennedy in 1960. It went for Bush in 2004, like a pretty reliably red state. How are they doing now over in Colorado? Can we get an update on that? What happened when the Colorado State GOP basically collapsed? Did the people fill the vacuum? Did the people rise up and form Based Party of Colorado after the state party got out of the way? Did they finally have something that could like really represent them? No, actually, things just got like gradually worse for everyone there. What about California? How's accelerationism going in California? Well, really bad, actually, John, which is why we have to elect their governor to be our president. Trust me, that's not real accelerationism. It's not real accelerationism until we all get shot. Yeah, how about that? Hey, the assassination of Charlie Kirk. Remind me, did that accelerate a supposedly inevitable right-wing victory, or did it just make everybody insane and retarded? Are our prospects for victory better now because our leaders are being killed, imprisoned, etc.? Do we need to just like keep running that, or are they actually worse? Are our prospects actually worse because of that? It's just like the most unbelievably transparent thing I've ever seen, literally at any point in my life. Once we finally start making a little progress, social media is flooded with why it's based to stop doing what's been working for you with these people who just show up out of nowhere. You know, they used to censor conspiracy theory content. People would still find it and they'd believe it, but at least they would still vote for Republicans, right? Now it's everywhere. And suddenly you're not getting banned for it. It's even promoted literally everywhere. But the new takeaway is, curiously, you have to not support Trump. You have to not support Vance. Trump and Vance's Republican Party. Very curious, isn't it? That is what is happening in the world. I was banned for years. Now all of a sudden these same platforms are just fine with stuff that's a lot edgier than what I was posting, and it's because the conclusion is ultimately disengaged from politics. The whole thing is like corrupt, man. What, you think? You still think we can vote our way out of this? The people running the PSYOPs are still employed. Do you think that's not the case? Like, you're aware of that, right? They didn't just like explode like the ending of, I don't know, Lord of the Rings or whatever, when Sauron is like, you know, collapsed or whatever. Like, outright censorship doesn't work. Fine. They make peace with that. They make peace with quote unquote dissident rhetoric so long as it remains nothing more than rhetoric, just another form of escapism, it's entertainment, whatever. It can be whatever it wants, just as long as it's not tethered to any kind of political reality, just as long as it's not tethered to something that's actually tangible in the real world. And in fact, let's use it to ensure that it never actually is. That's how accelerationism, as it's popularly understood, manifests politically. That's what it means. It means disengage, stop voting, let the left win, and then, on paper, even though it makes no sense at all and has literally never happened, then we finally win. Sorry, that's not going to work for me. Yeah, I don't know. I feel very blessed with what I have in my life and with who I have in my life. But the other side of that is I'm like cursed with this responsibility to not just like surrender it all and just like roll over because I conveniently found a way to politically rationalize my lifestyle of not doing anything but bitching on the internet. Like, that's not going to work for me. If I lose, I want to lose on my feet. And I do kind of keep breaking this promise I've made to myself, which is that I don't want to live my life as the catcher in the rye. Like, so much of what I've done for the past 5 years has been literally begging people to stop being retarded. And at a certain point, my actions are not aligning with my beliefs about the world. Like, since by this point, by 2026, the big 2-6, I feel perfectly comfortable to give myself permission to just like write these people off, which is to say, I don't actually think that people who at this point still do not get it could ever get it. And so insofar as I'm trying to like, wake them up, red pill the retarded, like I myself am in a sense being retarded. I myself am misaligned with reality. I'm literally like fighting against gravity here. Like, here's what I'm saying. I'm basically like, hey man, I know that you're like literally retarded, which is why you believe and gravitate towards things that are so retarded, but please stop that because, I gotta say, I've been talking to some of the guys. We really think you're wasting some serious potential here. I think you could be a great asset to our cause, which is extremely high stakes and that has real tangible material consequences for literally all of us should it not be successful. I'm not that guy. I don't have it in me anymore. I'll probably still do it because my beautiful heart, right? But that's the bottom line. It is based and red-pilled to support the Republican Party. That is the final red pill. That is literally the most radical thing that you can do. And I unironically mean that because unrealistic, unappealing rhetoric, that is actually less radical than things that are more realistic and more appealing, even if on paper they are, or in a group chat, they're less radical. It's about how you express your ideas, right? And the point of literally all of this is to physically change things. Okay, so that means you need a better metric of what is and what is not radical besides the purely rhetorical content of someone's stated position. You need to move the ball down the field. This is a real thing with real stakes for literally everyone involved. None of us are escaping from this scot-free if we lose. Again, Donald Trump, for better or worse, has already triggered the boss fight. Fight's on. So you can either get involved and help out or just like get out of the way. Go sign up for DraftKings. We'll see if they can sponsor the show. Go watch the new season of Stranger Things. I heard you're in it, gay boy. Go do like literally anything else. But if not, like, you can stick around, right? We need you, big guy. We need all hands on deck. Repeat after me. It is based in red-pilled to vote for Republicans. It is based in red-pilled to pledge loyalty to the Republican Party leader, Donald Trump. It is based in red-pilled to salute the flag. It is based in red-pilled to work in Republican politics and wear OCBDs and rep ties. It is based in red-pilled to defeat the Democrat Party. But you won't say that, will you, tough guy? Yeah, name them. Name the Democrat. That's my point. We must accelerate the total annihilation of organized democracy, of organized Democrat politics. But in the meantime, I do have to tell you, if you're enjoying this, the John Doyle Show, you're enjoying this program, chances are it's because you are someone in the world who is not yet insane in the big 2-6. Congratulations. You are one of 10 people who understand how the world works. I'm not even counting myself in that list because everyone else today is trying to make you dumber and like crazy. They are trying to bait you to click, as it were. One might even say sort of inside baseball industry lingo, right? Well, this show does the opposite. This is a place for people who want to know the truth about America. I am speaking specifically to Americans, maybe with a little, this, that, and the third thing, a little playful intolerance of anyone who's ever disagreed with me literally on anything at any point. But frankly, we've got a lot more backing it up than what you'll see elsewhere. So you're not going to fall asleep. You're not going to be lectured. You're going to be entertained. You're going to be informed. I'll probably yell at you a little bit. So if you want that show that respects your intelligence, that respects you, even if you are 14 and husky, then we are going to continue to give you this program and equipped you to understand the world rather than just like react to it. And what is that line we've been shopping around? Piss yourself on the bathroom floor while crying. Yeah, don't do that. So after you're listening to this podcast, don't sit there and pretend that you have something better to do. The next one is literally not even coming out until Friday. I implore you to understand that nothing you can do now other than vote for Republicans is more important than listening to my podcast on the internet. So go check out the John Doyle Show. Go on Spotify, Apple, go to Blaze, save $20 with promo code Doyle. We will see you at all of those places. We have Palantir monitoring the situation. We'll be right back. All right, ladies and gentlemen, we are back on the John Doyle Show, and we're going to talk about our favorite Congressman Thomas Massie, who had like some sort of epic go-off moment clip. So take a look at this epic go-off moment clip, and then we're going to react to it. You know how I just said we're not doing reaction stuff? I lied to you on the internet. So here we go. Yeah, we're going to play that.
If it were about drugs, we'd bomb Mexico or China or Colombia, and the president would not have pardoned Juan Orlando Hernandez. This is about oil and regime change.
He's literally just like misrepresenting the situation, because if you've been following this even remotely closely, let alone at the level of a sitting U.S. congressman, you know it wasn't so much about the manufacturing of the drugs. It was that Venezuela was acting as a sort of middleman, a sort of hub for those drugs to then, depart from, be trafficked into America. So that is the problem there. Moreover, no, Congressman Massie, we wouldn't just simply like bomb China. That would cause significantly more problems for us than going in and blackbagging an illegitimate communist dictator whose regime characteristically understood itself as being anti-American, anti-European, and anti-white. A little bit different. Kind of apples to oranges there, don't you think, Congressman? Second of all, you are supposed to be a United States congressman. That title is supposed to mean something. You close your epic statement, which you then upload to social media, because that's what it's about for you, because you're going to launch your Rumble podcast, and then me and you get to go head to head, don't we, right? And you say, this is not about drugs, this is about oil and regime change. What if it were? What if that literally were the case? I'm not really a map game guy. I've never really been into those, to be honest with you. I know I present as a map game guy. I'm not. Culturally, I am. I'm into history, and I'm kind of racist, but I'm not like a map game guy. The point being, I know that historically speaking, energy, natural resources, oil, these have famously been concerns of states, of regimes, have they not? Why would you throw that out as if that somehow makes the military operation less legitimate? I mean, I'm glad we took the oil. I've been saying we should take the oil. Trump was saying that of the Middle East wars 20 years ago. We didn't even take the oil. I agree. Why didn't we take the oil? Do we not want things to be better for Americans, Mr. America First? Mr. America First, Thomas Massie, we don't want cheaper energy for American citizens, cheaper gasoline for American citizens. We don't want that. We have concern about the well-being of the Venezuelan people, if not international law. These are not based positions, Mr. Massie. These are not right-wing positions. So I don't know. I literally don't understand what point he was trying to make there. I mean, I know the reason he said it was because he wants to appeal to this like Occupy Wall Street sentiment, which he's going to kind of require the embrace of once he departs politics after being laughed out of the Republican Party, because he exists basically to serve the interests of the left. His immigration rating is F. He's never done anything in his entire career to forward the agenda of immigration restriction, which if you're watching this program, you probably by this point know is the most important issue, the only issue that matters, as it affects literally every other issue. So there's that. And then also the regime change thing. Again, do we concede the idea that regime change is never legitimate? We have a hostile regime in Venezuela that is obviously being used to launder the interests of Russia. China, again, characteristically views itself to be anti-white, anti-European. They're sending us drugs. They're sending us migrants. What is the issue there? We're not allowed to flex a little bit of power. We had 4 years of an embarrassing Brandon regime, the laughingstock of the world. Russia invades Ukraine. Chinese diplomats are laughing at our president. We can't flex a little muscle, show people that we still got it. Not allowed to do that. Why? Because you said so. Well, luckily, you're just a congressman, and you're not even a good congressman at that. When Aaron Burr retired, he spoke extemporaneously for hours about not only how he viewed himself and his role as a congressman, but also as sort of the American political process in general, our institutions. He spoke so well that he received a standing ovation, and his political opposition and even newspapers, which had previously been quite hostile to him, spoke of it favorably and did the gotta hand it to him kind of thing. I don't think that you could do that about this issue in a soundbite. Present a better articulation of it, why it matters. You appeal to the scare words. It's about oil. It's about regime change. We should bomb China. And you do that because, again, the point is not to actually represent the interests of the United States, your district. It is to appeal to people on social media, to cause problems, to cause PR issues for the Trump administration. Why you are doing that, I don't know. I don't know your mind. I don't know your heart, but I know the effect of your work. I know that if you were working for the Democrat Party, your actions would be the same. I know that they like you. That's why Jasmine Crockett goes on to wax poetic about your integrity. That's why you get the epic retweets from them. That's why you're treated much friendlier than patriots are. We can all see what's happening, whether that's because you're unintelligent, you don't know what's happening, you're in on it, whatever. I don't care. I really don't care. All I care about is demonstrable effects and what is tangible and real in the world, which is that you are not a patriot, you're a fake triot, and I disagree with your opinion on that. I disagree with your existence in the United States Congress, and I hope that you get primaried, and I hope that you start your Rumble podcast so that we can go head-to-head. Congressman Massie, I want you. I want you in the fight. Come on, join us in the real arena. Literally, the United States Congress does nothing. You want to be in the real arena? Get into talking about politics on the internet. Tough guy. Get away from Secret Service. Get away from Congress. Get on the internet. You want blood sports? You want to do blood sports, Congressman? We can do blood sports. So anyway, we'll get you out of here. I hope you enjoy the rest of your week. We'll see you back on Friday. Again, I implore you to go to those places on the internet where we discuss politics, namely Apple, Spotify, where have you. Leave us a 5-star review. Let us know how much you like the show or how much you want me to sew my lips shut permanently like the opening sequence of Saw 4. Whatever your opinion may be. Thank you so much for watching. God bless you. God bless America. And we'll see you next time.